Throughout ancient and modern history, empires and people from different areas around the world occupied the historic land of Palestine and settled in it. People from diverse cultures and backgrounds succeeded one another, leaving a trace for them and influencing others by their cultures and beliefs. Modern Palestinian identity has taken shape under the influence of various civilizations that regned over the historic land of Palestine. Palestinian people are stateless people searching for their rights. The historical land of Palestine was divided into two states by the United Nations in 1947. In 1948, the State of Israel was created on the majority of the Palestinian land. The West Bank, including East Jerusalem and Gaza, became under the Jordanian and Egyptian control until being occupied by Israeli military in 1967 following the Six-Day War. The creation of the State of Israel in 1948 generated the largest population of refugees still unsettled since World War II, with the longest displacement in modern history. The displacement and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people in 1948 is known today as the Palestinian Nakba. Today, over 5 million Palestinian people are identified as refugees and living in refugee camps in Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Palestinian refugees are people whose normal place of residence was Palestine between June 1946 and May 1948, who lost both their homes and means of livelihood as a result of the 1948 Arab-Israeli conflict, and their descendants. The UN registered in 1950 over 750,000 refugees. In 2011, the numbers increased, and the UN registered over 5 million refugees. 1/3, which is about 1.4 million refugees, live in 58 recognized refugee camps in Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. customary international law, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UN resolutions, and the Fourth Geneva Convention all support the Palestinian people's right to return to their land. The denationalization of Palestinians illegally is a violation of customary international law principles of non-discrimination because it was based on race and ethnic origins. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. The United Nations General Assembly Resolution 194 resolves that the refugees wishing to return to their homes and live at peace with their neighbors should be permitted to do so at the earliest possible date, and that compensation should be paid for the property of those choosing not to return. The United Nations General Assembly Resolution 3236 reaffirms also the inalienable right of the Palestinians to return to their homes and property from which they have been displaced and uprooted, and calls for their return. In addition, the Fourth Geneva Convention states that individual or mass forcible transfers, as well as deportations of protected persons from occupied territory of the occupying power to that of any other country, occupied or not, are prohibited, regardless of their motives. Israeli leaders and officials deny up to this day the Palestinian people's right to return. 63 years ago, David Ben-Gurion, the first Israeli Prime Minister, said, "We must do everything to ensure they, the Palestinians, never do return," assuring the Israeli people that Palestinians will never come back to their homes. He also stated that the old will die and the young will forget. Today, 63 years later, Palestinian people insist on protecting their right to return and strive to pass this right to future generations. The Palestinian-Israeli conflict is more than a conflict over borders. It is different from other occupations and colonization. It's a conflict between two nations over their right to exist on the same land. It's a conflict over the ownership of the land and the historical connections between each nation and the land. In order to protect the Palestinian people's rights, and most importantly, the right of return, it is essential to keep the connection between the people and the land. One of the most important methods of maintaining the connection between a nation and its land is the culture that is taught and passed along to future generations. Preserving cultural ties to the land has a significant effect on the political situation of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian culture and folklore comprises many aspects including literature, music, style of dress, embroidery, paintings, and dance, and many others. I will focus here on the Palestinian dance, which is called the dabka.
نادي خياتك يا مريم نادي خياتك قومي تانا حطب يا مريم قومي تانا حطب يا هي حناتي.
Dabka is the Palestinian traditional folkloric dance. The Palestinian dabka is very similar to the Lebanese, Syrian, Jordanian, and even Iraqi dabka. It also shares similar aspects with the traditional Greek and Turkish dance. Participants hold hands, form a circle, and dance together for weddings, celebrations, and national events. The dabka is not only danced at celebrations. There are many dabka performances that are used to remind people of their struggle against oppression and encourage them to resist and unite. Some of the many dance troupes that perform around the world today display artistic dances that reflect the Palestinian people's roots to their homeland. The dance pieces tell a story of the history, struggle, and aspirations of the Palestinian people. Palestinian traditional songs accompany the traditional dabka. Most occasions in daily life has a related own traditional song. There are songs for weddings, planting and harvesting goods, and even funerals of martyrs. Different songs cover different aspects of life, such as love, patriotism, wisdom, and others. Many songs have different versions that are sung on different occasions. For example, people sing Dal'ona or Zarif at-Tul at a wedding and a martyr's funeral, but with different words. Popular traditional songs usually tell stories about the Palestinian people and their struggle. Zarif at-Tul, for example, is about a tall man. The song tells different stories about him depending on the occasion. Another example is Dal'ona, whose main character is a Palestinian young lady and also tells different stories about her. In many occasions, songs will be sung that combine Dal'ona and Zarif at-Tul and describes the two characters as lovers who were separated by the war and occupation.
مساك بالخير واحنا توينا جينا
مساك بالخير واحنا توينا جينا
تنزهز الكلب ونروح لهالينا
تنزهز الكلب ونروح لهالينا
ولولا المحبي على القدام ما جينا
لولا المحبي على القدام ما جينا
ولا دهسنا أراضيكم.
The Art of Freedom Cultural Group was created by a group of students in the Ohio State University. It was established first as a project without any long-term goals. The only goal was to train a group of young students from the Committee for Justice in Palestine at the Ohio State University and the Palestinian Solidarity Movement on performing a couple traditional dabka dances for an event on OSU campus. After the success of the first performance, with over 200 people attending the event, the group decided to continue with its activities and to start on new projects. Today, a year after its establishment, the group has almost doubled the number of its members. It added a new dimension to its performance work, a full-length theoretical play about the Palestinian cultural figures such as Dal'ona, Zarif at-Tul, Mish'al, Jafra, and many others.
قديش اجا وتمرمرت روحه كانت عينيكم دمع في جروحه كانت منازلكم احجارها عظمه بساتينكم جسمه لم الألم منه صنع ألغام شباكته كسرها ما عادت تقول ألغام مع انه كان طول النهار يكتب اشعار ويغنيها عتابه وميجنى ويكتب اسمه يكتب رسمه عالدور رجع لك يا بلادي منصور ويقول راجع ظريف الطول
founder of the Art of Freedom group and one of its members. I see the group as a much bigger project than just dancing and singing. It is a project to teach and educate Palestinians and Arabs living away from their country and homes about their culture and heritage. This will strengthen the connection between the people and their land, history, and heritage. We also intend to go out to OSU's campus as well as other universities and cities in the country to present our work to all people, not just Arabs and Palestinians, reaching out to the American people to spread awareness about the Palestinian people and their culture and struggle is a very critical thing for the Palestinian solidarity movement. This proves that Palestinian people exist and have a rich history and culture. It responds to all the politicians and other people who deny this fact and who describe Palestinians as invented people, or who do not even recognize the existence of the Palestinian people and the connections that they have with the full historical land of Palestine. We respond through dancing, singing, and acting, and by representing our culture and history. My personal long-term goal for the group is to continue on expanding, adding new members, covering more aspects from the Palestinian culture, and reaching out to more and more members of the community as well as other communities nearby. Hopefully, the Art of Freedom Cultural Group will one day become the Art of Freedom Cultural Center that teaches all people from different ages and backgrounds the Palestinian culture and the Palestinian heritage. Hopefully, it can one day fully represent the Palestinian people in the region. At the end, we send a message to the world and to all of those who believed in what David Ben-Gurion said. We say today that the young will never forget, we will never forget, and we will return.
فلسطيني عرفت الجوع والحرمان، فلسطيني عرفت القهر والأحزان وكل مصائب الإنسان، ولم تغلب موازيني فلسطيني. تجرحت الحصى لبنا، تجرحت الحصى لبنا، حملت الجرح لي وطنا، وكبت الأسى زمنا، وكبت الأسى ألوان، ولم تنضب شراييني فلسطيني.
علي الكوفية علي ولولح فيها وغني عتابة وميجانة وسامر فيها. علي الكوفية علي ولولح فيها وغني عتابة وميجانة وسامر فيها. هز الكتف بحنية جفرة عتابة ودحية